Welcome to the Sunday, October 29th edition of the PFF Forecast. Yes, we are recording a little early because of the privilege that was, and still kind of is, Chargers Bears. Teabag, rest in peace. It was some fleeting moments of positivity. We were also going to talk about the Vikings. What can they possibly do? A little bit of pre-trade deadline talk. A little bit of Niners and Chiefs. Are they both in trouble? Is one in trouble? What's going on there? And then we'll get to week 9 and guess the lines. It's going to be a great show. Hopefully you've made it through the teabag experience. Let's rock. Welcome in. If you are a longtime member of the podcast and the printing press, you will know that when the games get out of hand on Sunday night, we got to roll a little early. If you are new to the podcast, welcome in. I'm George. I've got Brad and Arjun here. Brad, a well-known, noted Chicago Bears superfan. Arjun, a noted Chargers superfan. But no animosity here today because both teams won. Brad, congratulations on the loss. Arjun, congratulations on the much-needed win. How are you feeling?
No, it's hilarious because the entire week Brad was shit talking the Chargers in my DMs like, oh yeah, don't worry, Tyson Bagent better than Justin Herbert. He's gonna make a statement on Sunday night. I'm like, okay, buddy, we gotta let this play out. And yeah, Chargers is a nice win. Have a chance to turn the season around now.
Let's flash to reality where you two gaslit me into betting on Teabag and in prime time, and Arjun tweeted out a 6-leg parlay with a bunch of Bears props and Bears plus 9.5.
Look, 9.5 is still in the works. A little onside kick recovery, touchdown, 2-point conversion, and that's a little backdoor. But
backdoor season's coming. They went for 2. All right.
If anyone can pull it off, it's Teabag, who, by the way, also looks like B-Rabbit with the beanie on. But that's actually not the most impressive quarterback performance from today, because we had Tony DeVito or the New York Giants with one of the greatest. I have a legit question as to how a guy that can't complete a forward pass makes it onto an NFL roster. Like that Teabag, Tyson Bagent, is like a serviceable quarterback. How do the Giants not have, I mean, the school of the minds that beat Shepherd University must certainly have a quarterback that they could bring onto the squad. And instead, they have Tony DeVito, who had a cover locked up and completely pissed it away. Not bitter at all. We'll make it through. Let's get to a real team that we talked about on Wednesday as having a legitimate shot at 6-1 to win the division in the Minnesota Vikings. Came out and looked very impressive against the Green Bay Packers, ended up winning that game, but lose Kirk Cousins, or it seems are going to lose Kirk Cousins to an Achilles injury, which will certainly have him out for the season unless some combination of prayer and whatever the hell Aaron Rodgers is on can get him back in record time. But he's done. There was obviously some question around whether the Vikings were going to keep him after this year. Were they going to try and trade him if they weren't doing well? So I'm curious, Brad, like what are possible avenues for them? What do you think they're considering right now?
Yeah, it's probably smaller stuff. It is tough because, I mean, they are looking good now. The defense with Brian Flores, they're just blitzing like crazy and making things work the last month or so now. That the offense going to get Justin Jefferson back in the near future, and then you lose Kirk, who may have had his best game of his career in primetime last week. I mean, like the big splashes obviously would be like a Ryan Tannehill if you convince the Titans to basically eat his entire salary and say, look, Will Levis just had 4 touchdown passes. Ryan Tannehill has 2 on the season. Just start playing Will Levis and trade us Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill hasn't had 3 touchdown passes in a game since 2021. So maybe you go that route. I think the more realistic route is like Colt McCoy, who has a connection with Kevin O'Connell, Case Keenum, who obviously went to the NFC Championship game with the Minnesota Vikings, a whole different staff. But anyway, was there as a legend. I'll throw one out too. I went to a Eagles-Vikings game back in 2018 probably. the number one jersey in the stadium, and it was being worn by both Eagles fans and Vikings fans, was a Carson Wentz North Dakota State jersey, was literally filling US Bank Stadium. Maybe they also give him a phone call, let him have a tryout, because Jaren Hall is not viable. I mean, Jaren Hall came in and got strip sacked like the first play he was in the game. But yeah, odds are it's going to be something small, not something flashy. But you never know, I guess.
What do you think, Adrian? What makes sense for them?
Well, they are competitive. Like honestly, like I think their team this year is better than they were last year. And I think last year you could argue they had more talent, especially on defense because they cut a bunch of guys and don't have Patrick Peterson anymore. But I actually think like this is the better Vikings team compared to last year, even if the records are worse. So yeah, like in a weak NFC, like yeah, you can rip off 2 or 3 wins if Wentz gets hot or whatever quarterback they sign gets hot. But I don't think you can rely on Jaren Hall. And we've heard Kwesi kind of talk about towing the line between being competitive and also understanding where the team is. And like I think at this point you've seen the team rattle off 3 straight wins. You go into Green Bay and you win pretty convincingly. You beat the Niners, on prime time as 6-point dogs. Like this is a team that I think could be competitive if they're able to make it into the playoffs. So I don't think you want to waste this roster, but you also I don't think you want to make a move that hinders your ability to rebuild or spend money in the future. So I don't know if I'd be in favor of trading for Tannehill. I try to find just a cheap option on the free agent market or just a cheap backup that has experience in like a wide zone system.
You got to bring Case Keenum back. You got to run the Minnesota Miracle back. I mean, the Minneapolis Miracle. That's the one that, from a cheap option perspective, makes some sense. But here's the thing that I mean, Kirk Cousins had, pending review, the 3rd best PFF passing grade this week. On the course of the season, has the 4th best passing grade this year. He has a better PFF grade than Patrick Mahomes. Like he's played very, very well. So I know we joke about Kirk Cousins and him being, pretty darn near average, and everyone's kind of just a version of Kirk Cousins, but he's been very good this year. And so I think you're going to see what was a good roster, but not a great roster, come back to reality without a player like Kirk Cousins. I can't believe I'm saying that, playing quarterback. So I actually think you got to bite the bullet here because look, they got off to a bad start. You're not going to win the division unless you can beat Detroit once or probably twice. And I just have a hard time seeing you beat the Detroit Lions with Case Keenum. Like, I know that there's some nostalgia there, but I just don't see it. So the thing that was brought up, and I think it was Mike Florio that tweeted it out. So take this with a humongous grain of salt. And I wanted to ask you, Brad, like Kyler Murray is sitting there. The Cardinals have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft right now. Thanks to Joshua Dobbs. Is there a avenue through which Kyler Murray could get moved, and would the Vikings potentially be able to make that happen?
Not right now. I actually do think it's kind of an interesting thing to monitor this offseason if they do get the 1st overall pick and they actually want to start over. But you're talking about a guy who is a year after signing a top 10 quarterback contract and who still is not even active with an ACL that he tore, less than a year ago. Like, you're not trading that guy at a deadline. He probably came and start for Minnesota for another couple of weeks. And at that point, you're inheriting, a top 10 contract at the position. So, no, but I think it's going to be interesting in this offseason. I know they've said they're going to stick by Kyler. Look, if he comes back and balls out and pushes them out of the top overall pick or a top 2 pick, then, that option kind of goes away. But if not, it's interesting in the offseason because Minnesota now obviously has to have a new quarterback next year. I do feel terrible for Kirk Cousins also. I mean, look, like you said, he is sometimes a butt of a joke. He's been a top 12 quarterback for the last 5-6 years and does raise the floor, but he was about to cash in again. I mean, he is a business of football Hall of Famer, first ballot, give him his own wing in the building guy, and he was going to do it once again this offseason. And now, he might. I mean, who knows? He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not doing voodoo magic. Like, I don't think he's going to be able to play even week 1 next year. Maybe he can, but yeah.
He has I don't know if you know this, but his father has some voodoo powers.
That's fair.
Through the body and blood of Christ. So you never know. I will say this about Cousins. Like in the quarterback documentary, it's very clear that he works super, super hard. And actually, for a guy that's not exactly an incredible athlete, really tries to take good care of himself. So I do think he can come back from this. It's not like his mobility is like the biggest part of his game. But here's the thing, like they have to decide whether they're going to keep Danielle Hunter. To me, this just screams you have to trade him and get something of value for him. You're basically, your whole roster, I think, is expendable with the exception of Darisaw and Justin Jefferson. And those are the players that you want to build around. So you can't cling too tightly. Like, you've got to be able to get rid of those players and get something that is going to generate value for you at a cost that you can afford, because you're going to have to pay those other guys. And either you're going to pay a quarterback or you're going to go draft one. And I'm just not sure they're going to be able to go draft one given how many teams are ahead of them in the pick standings. So like, I'm in favor of a fire sale. Like, I think that's the best move for their franchise, to be honest.
I can tell you this: they obviously won today, so this doesn't exactly correlate to a conversation I had. Even after beating the Niners, I was told if they lose a divisional game against Green Bay, and they're 3-5 at that point, that Danielle Hunter may still get traded before Tuesday. Obviously, they win today, but now without Kirk Cousins, I think where Vikings fans get lost too is you basically have to view it as next year with a rookie quarterback. Even if you do somehow get a top 5 pick, those guys are still not going to be good in their rookie season. So realistically, the next time Danielle Hunter really matters to the Minnesota Vikings is 2025, when he's going to turn 31 during that season. Is he a great player? Yes. Has he been remarkably productive this year, even though a lot of it is kind of pursuit stuff and unblocked stuff and 3.5 seconds into the shot clock stuff? Yes, but he's still been good. But like, that's the issue. And I do think Kwesi understands that. So yeah, I heard like, if they lose, they still might sell. They obviously didn't lose, but in reality, losing Kirk, it matters a whole lot more than beating the Jordan Love privileged Green Bay Packers. Let's just soak that in real quick. The Packers suck. We just drink that in and just like let it kind of just wash over us a little bit. Like, they're horrendous. How great is that?
Oh man, you had to get that shot in. Okay, let's pivot from the Vikings talk to the consensus top 2 teams in our power rankings. I think pretty much from the beginning of the season have been the Chiefs and the Niners. Both of them looked horrific today. I'm going to say that word applies to both of them in different ways. So let's go around the horn. Which one should we be more worried about and why? Arjun, let's start with you.
Oh, that's a good question. I think it would be the Niners, because at some point I feel like we can always trust Pat and Andy to figure it out. We've seen these kind of like mid-season slumps before. And with the Niners, I think what scares me is the Purdy regression is hitting. He's actually turning the ball over. They're actually catching these interceptions. But more importantly, like, maybe the Niners defense isn't as good as we thought. Like, this is a Bengals team that, Joe Burrow is pretty, like, for the most part, the entire Bengals offense is healthy. I don't think there's a single starter that went into this game that wasn't healthy. Burrow's coming off a bye. And so, yeah, I think we did talk about the Bengals coming out and potentially having a better game with more rest. But the Niners defense hasn't been that good. Even Kirk carved them up with that Jefferson last year. So you talk about offensive regression for Purdy's angle, defensive regression, just not playing as well. You're not really seeing that great of a pass rush for the edge players outside of Nick Bosa. I think Arik Armstead had a great game today, but outside of Nick, there really isn't a lot of help. You're relying on Drake Jackson to make a huge year 2 leap. And so you combine those two things, and yeah, you kind of have these weird games where you're losing these 1-score games to teams you're favored by at least 5-6 points against. So I'd be a little bit more worried about the Niners, just because things that we did talk about in terms of regressing, they are. While I think with Pat and Andy, they'll usually figure it out by the end of the season.
Yeah, it's the same answer for me, just because you go back to the quarterback. I mean, Purdy in these bad game scripts, I think he has 6 turnovers the last 3 weeks now, 2 picks and a fumble today. I think he had another pick that got called back, or something happened in that game, and both interceptions were egregious. These weren't receiver tips the ball in the air. He threw it to Jermaine Pratt, he threw it to Logan Wilson. They are going to get healthy. The lack of Trent Williams was notable. Trey Hendrickson was living in the backfield even while nursing an ankle injury the entire game. But yeah, if their defense can't against these good offenses. Even last year, Kansas City comes into San Fran and drops 44 points, and I think it had 9 yards of play. If one of those games happens, you're basically dead. This team is not going to mount a fourth quarter comeback of more than one touchdown. I mean, I know we talked about the stat with Kyle Shanahan. It's literally never happened with Kyle Shanahan in his entire tenure there. So that's the thing for me is when it's rolling, and they can beat anyone, but you're going to be down against a good team in the playoffs, and they have not shown an ability to surmount a comeback at any point in the last 4 years, regardless of who's playing quarterback.
Real quick, I want to talk real quick about that one interception that Purdy had to Jermaine Pratt. I feel like it's standard that QBs know that if you are running an RPO and you don't hand it off, you have to throw it. And if you don't throw it, you better slide, you better take off, you better slide. Just you can't throw it because you're going to get a penalty for an eligible man downfield. This dude broke the pocket, ran for 2 seconds, and still threw it, knowing that it's going to come back, and he still didn't even get it above Jermaine Pratt. That was one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen, just because from an IQ perspective, it's one of the most brain dead things any quarterback could do.
Well, his brain may have been somewhat not alive. That's the thing that I think both teams, and I'll answer the question here in a second, but I think both teams had quarterbacks that are potentially playing, under the weather. I think it was kind of crazy to me that Purdy didn't get evaluated for another concussion in this game. And it's also unbelievable to me that he showed up in concussion protocol on Wednesday and then played on Sunday. So I don't really know what to make of it, but I'll just say that the data would speak to one answer and one answer only, and that's the Niners. And there's 2 core reasons. Over the last 3 weeks, Brock Purdy has a sub 59 PFF passing grade. That's awful. But here's probably the more concerning one for me. Over the last 3 weeks, the team that has allowed the most passing yards in the NFL are the San Francisco 49ers. And that is not a recipe for success. So if you can't throw the ball and then you can't stop the pass, you are going to get lit up. And that's how they've lost 3 games in a row. Now, they don't have Debo, they don't have Trent Williams. So I think those things need to be, considered in how much are you going to be worried about them. But they're not first in the NFC West right now. The team that's first in the NFC West is our Seattle Seahawks, who, after week 2 or 3, we would have been, after week 1, we had buried them or many had buried them. And we talked about, potentially betting them again this past week. But the Niners' inability to cover is just as concerning to me, because you don't have as many excuses on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, not having Trent, not having Debo, I think is a concern. So, yeah, I would be legitimately worried. My question to you guys is having seen, I guess, how much has to go right for the Niners to be dominant and how quickly it kind of slides away. Are they a legit Super Bowl contender in your mind?
I still would say yes, because Dallas is starting to look like Dallas again, but just the NFC. I mean, dude, the NFC South might have 2 playoff teams. We're talking about a very realistic scenario where the Niners have to just win against the Eagles and they get into the Super Bowl. So, for that reason, I say yes. Because the path could just be so easy. But yeah, and I would say this too. Keep an eye on them tomorrow for a defensive trade. I think defensive line, a Montez Sweat. I think corner, Dante Jackson, Carolina, Christian Fulton. I don't know, whoever's potentially available. I think they will be making a lot of phone calls there, which you could probably quabble with. Should they just give up more resources for a defensive lineman? That's their MO. They're going to do it. But yeah, I would still say yes. I need to go quick soapbox. Kyle Shanahan always does this, and we know he's as good as it gets. You're down 14. You're without Debo and Trent Williams already. Christian McCaffrey catching a screen pass with 14 seconds left in this game, or 12 seconds. Are you kidding me? Are you actually joking? And the guy has an injury. It's just it's so brain dead. Anyway, I'm done.
That is brutal. Their inability to make smart decisions in 4th down and 2-point conversion situations also absolutely brutal. Let's talk about the Chiefs here for a second, though, because I would say that their offense has looked for most of the season. Mahomes seems a little bit out of it now. Obviously, he had the flu today, but the concern for me, a real dramatic concern would be how awful their receivers are. And we talk about how drops are like, an unstable thing. When your receivers just suck, your receivers just suck. Like that's kind of stable. Like Sky Moore has been bad every game. Rashee Rice we've talked about he's their best receiver. That's not sustainable. So to me, while I think a lot of the league is kind of up for grabs, you look at the Bengals and getting Joe Burrow back healthy, and you compare that and contrast that to where the Chiefs are trending. Like I do think there's a legit path to the Chiefs not being the favorite to come out of the AFC unless something dramatically changes for their offense. What do you guys think?
I agree. Sky Moore dropped a touchdown. Rashee had the big drop over the middle of the field. That would have been a, explosive play. And look, Rashee Rice is comfortably the best receiver on that team. And I've never seen him run an actual route. I've seen him just sit down in soft. No, I'm not even trying to be a hater. Like he just finds soft spots in zones, catches the ball, and has great yak ability.
He's the Travis Kelce version of a receiver.
Yes. Like I've literally like find me a clip of him running like a sharp, crisp route with a good break, and I'll rescind my comment. But I personally have not seen it. It works in this offense, but it's insane. They have to do something. I'm sick of hearing they'll win. They'll make the playoffs. They'll win some playoff games. But if they want to win again, you have to have a legitimate wide receiver on this team, and they currently do not have one.
Another thing that I think is kind of underrated, and in the grand scheme of things, running the ball isn't as important as passing. But the Chiefs ranked 26th in rushing EPA. They ranked 31st in rushing success rate, which means on average when they're running the ball, they are the second worst team on a play-for-play basis at gaining a successful play, at gaining positive expected points added. We talk about the Chiefs are one of those teams you're going to see a lot of split safety coverages, a lot of light boxes to try and slow down Mahomes. And you have to be able to run teams out of those light boxes. You have to make them respect your run game. The Chiefs don't have any injuries, if I'm not mistaken, to their offensive line. Everyone they've signed that was projected to start is starting. Pacheco was supposed to have this breakout second year. You have, former first. Well, I'm not going to talk about Clyde, but this is supposed to be a team that could run the ball when they needed to. We saw that in last year's playoffs, but it hasn't been something. So they're relying more and more on Pat to win, on third and long or third and short even, and he just can't do that. The third and short thing is a whole other debacle, but I think when you're relying on Pat to win those third and longs without viable receivers that are good, I think that is another issue that is coming up for the Chiefs this year.
Who do they realistically trade for? I mean, we've talked a lot about how DeAndre Hopkins not necessarily the type of receiver that they would look for. So is there someone that we're not thinking of? Is it D-Hop? What do you think, Brad?
I still think, look, people say he doesn't separate. He was had separation all three of his touchdowns today.
Maybe it's the OPI when you throw the guy to the ground.
If you get away with it, then I still think that they should try to do that. Maybe Tennessee now says, yeah, we're going to let our rookie quarterback throw to a alpha number one, even if he's not, the same guy. So maybe he's not available at this point. But it's a good question. Who actually is available? It's going to make a difference. I don't really know, but even the Eagles go out and sign Julio. He had a touchdown today. Just do something. Just get a body in there and figure it out, because I don't know, call Arizona and beg for Marquise Brown. I know they've said consistently he's not available. Go overpay for him. And I'm being a bit reactionary. The Chiefs probably still going to win the Super Bowl this year by 2 scores. It probably doesn't even matter, but maybe not. But yeah, call Denver. They're in your division. Maybe that's a bad idea. I don't know who they call, but it's tough, man. If Travis Kelce doesn't have 100 yards, they're not going to do a lot. It's tough.
Yeah.
So the Chiefs used to be a team where every play you were terrified of them going 50 yards, right? Think back to Mahomes' rookie year. They have transitioned, putting that nicely, into a team where I am literally just wondering if they're going to catch a pass past the line of scrimmage. that is what they've transitioned to. So sometimes it's you don't need much more than how do you feel about a team, right? And they've got nobody there. MVS is terrible, absolutely terrible. It's a good question from someone in the chat here. Who other than the Chiefs is the best team in the AFC right now. You've seen the Bengals, you've seen the Ravens. Who'd you guys put there?
I go Baltimore. They let Arizona come back, but the game was over. I don't know. I think they're just both sides of the ball. I have the fewest question marks about them. Maybe Cincy too. I mean, Cincy's starting to look like Cincy of last year. But
is anyone of notable hurt for Cincinnati? Like, I feel like they don't have any injuries at all, right?
Not really.
Like I said, their offense is completely healthy.
Just T. Higgins' emotional state.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, I think I probably would go Baltimore. I honestly like Jacksonville even. Like, I don't have many questions about Jacksonville. Like today, look, today was that game was all about effery, and it could have gone so bad. 3 turnovers inside Pittsburgh territory, and they still won by 10, right? Like, they moved the ball efficiently, just, typical Jag stuff. But Trevor Lawrence is playing great. Ridley and Kirk, both of them have their games. They haven't had Zay Jones for the past couple of games, and the offense is still rolling. ETN's been running well. Today, they didn't even have Tyson Campbell or Andre Sisco, and the secondary was still really good. So I think they're playing pretty complementary football in terms of passing, running, and playing good defense. In weak division, I think they could be a team that also like makes a splash in the playoffs this year.
Yep.
To me, it's one of 3 teams. It's either Buffalo, Cincinnati, or Baltimore. And I would currently rank them as follows: Cincinnati, Buffalo, Baltimore. I think it's very, very close. The reason I would give Cincinnati the slight edge, there are 2 main reasons. The first is Joe Burrow, when healthy, is the quarterback out of that 3 that I just have the most confidence in from a game-to-game basis. I'm not saying he has the highest ceiling. Actually, you think you could argue that the other 2 maybe have a higher ceiling, but I think he has a much higher floor. Jamar Chase is the best receiver that any of those 2 teams have, and they have the best second option if T. Higgins gets his act together. The other thing that I think is really important is Lou Anarumo. I think his ability to come up with a great scheme for a particular game and particular opponent. Mike McDonald over in Baltimore, very good as well. But I think those are both legs up for Cincinnati. And look, I think Buffalo, Baltimore, like those. If I'm Kansas City, I would not feel very comfortable right now, based on how strong I think each of those teams are. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else before we get to week 9?
Let's ride.
Rock and roll here. All right. We guess the lines every single week. If you would like to do so along with us, you can. If you're not in the Discord, go join our Discord, the Printing Press. The link is in our Twitter bios or X bios, or the hell you want to call them. And you can guess lines right along with us. Then you'll get scorecards sent out to you with how you did. And that way you can kind of test your sharpness against the market. Before we get to this week's Guess the Lines, a word from our friends over at Prize Picks, who, if you are in a place where you can't bet legally on sports, you may want to find a way to get into the action. You can do so with Prize Picks and their daily fantasy contests. We're about to talk about a ton of bets that we like, and you'll be able to go onto Prize Picks and bet on those theses without actually betting. DFS, that's how it works. So you pick basically 1 or 2 to 6 players. You pick whether they're going to go over or under their fantasy points projection, and then you can win up to 25x your investment. It's a really, really sweet platform. It's very, very easy and intuitive. Go to prizepicks.com/forecast. Use the promo code forecast to get a deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/forecast. Also, our friends at Fabric by Gerber Life are making your life a hell of a lot easier. You've got a family. You don't want to worry about whether they're going to be safe or not. Well, you're risking it all betting on the Chicago Bears on a Sunday. Okay, that's risky business. Don't risk it with your family. Go get a great term life insurance policy from Fabric by Gerber Life. Super easy. You don't have to call someone up on the phone, deal with anything. You go to MEETfabric.com/PFF. And in 10 minutes, you can have a great quality term life insurance policy ready to rock. And then you can get back to the thing that you like to do, which is betting on the game of football. So go to MEETfabric.com/PFF. All right. On to week number 9. Week number 8 was a quality week. I'll go ahead and share the spreadsheet here. I unfortunately tried to convince everyone here to bet on the Chicago Bears. I take all the blame for that. Brad, you decided to turn away and went with a teaser, which I commend you for. So you escaped. I did not. Arjun, I think you joined me on that because you just wanted to, jinx your team into success. Good for you. And I also managed to bet on the Los Angeles Rams, which was a huge and total disaster. So yes, this is where we sat in week 8. Brad, Arjun, very nice weeks. I need to pick it up a little bit, but we are on to week number 9, and we start on Thursday night with Tennessee and Pittsburgh. This looks to be Will Levis and Kenny Pickett. Is that correct?
I think it's going to be Will Levis, Mitchell Trubisky.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Yes.
Yeah. That's my guess. Yeah, rib injury, went down on a sack, couldn't protect himself, and it looked. I mean, Thursday, tough turnaround. He was ruled out pretty much immediately. It wasn't like questionable. It's like he was done. Look, it should be Levis, but leave it to Mike Vrabel to be like, this is Ryan Tannehill's team. If his ankle's healthy, he's the guy. But no, I assume it's going to be Will Levis.
Yeah, that'd be my guess as well. Okay, let's start. Brad, would you make this?
I had Steelers minus 2.5.
Yeah, same.
I went Steelers by 2.5 as well, and I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. Let's find out. Yep, 2.5. Looks like it's 2.5. Pretty much everywhere now. It is at some places. I guess not. It's 2.5 pretty much across the board. I do think this is an interesting teaser leg. Depending on how you feel about Will Levis. I'm curious, did you guys, after watching that, feel like it is reproducible, or did you think, hey, he took advantage of some busted coverages and maybe it's not quite as sustainable, especially on the road against Pittsburgh?
I think it's sustainable long term. Do I think it's sustainable? Yeah, with a short turnaround going into Pittsburgh with that offensive line versus the Steelers defense? No. But no, I mean, there were some busted coverages. He also had a handful of very nice throws, like layered over coverage or away from a defender with good ball placement. Like he deserves credit. It was not a fluke. He looked awesome in this game.
Let's get on to an actual good game. The Chiefs are going to be a little wounded going into this game. I would assume Mahomes getting a lot of fluids here. This is in Germany, in Frankfurt. It is Miami, Kansas City. We're actually sending a good game abroad for the first time. So hopefully the Germans appreciate it. Brad, would you make this?
Yeah, shout out Timo. You get a good one. I had Kansas City minus 2.5 again.
Yeah, I had Chiefs minus 2.5 as well.
Timo will be there live.
Hell yeah.
At the game. So we'll get some insight on how Mahomes looks in person, which is all important. I made this 2. I couldn't get all the way to 2.5. And let's see here. 2.5, 2.5.
George, real quick.
Yeah.
While you look at it, do you guys remember what the look-ahead line was when we did guess the international games over the summer or like right near the draft? Do you want to guess what the look-ahead line was?
3.5 across the number.
I would say KC by 5.5.
Yeah, it was KC 5.5.
Wow.
All of us had Brad had KC 5.5. Me and George had KC minus 3.5. And me and George both said we'd bet that. So we need to go back to look at some of the older look-ahead lines we did. But sorry, I just wanted to point that out because I remember we did that.
That is a great. So this is. Does it feel like we or that the market is overcorrecting one side or the other? Like I guess we're pretty much on the number here, but any thoughts there given that context?
It feels a little to me like I mean, look, Miami's good. Jalen Ramsey came back today and played great. I feel like it's a slight overcorrection. I think if it was on 3, I would say it's fine. Under the number, I think is probably a bit of a correction from the preseason look ahead.
I think it's fine. I think it's warranted, honestly. I mean, Dolphins offense is rolling. Chiefs offense has been struggling recently. So I don't mind it too much. Or struggling in non-Chargers matchups recently, so I don't mind it.
I'm assuming this total will be very, very high, but I do think I'm tempted by a Dolphins teaser. I'll take 8.5. And I am a little concerned about the Chiefs in this game. Having traveled that far, Mahomes clearly not being healthy, having no receivers. I do think this is a bit of a challenge. Any of you guys betting this either way?
The total's 50.5, which, in today's NFL is like 54 of yesteryear, back when teams scored points. So we had some offense this weekend. I'm kind of tempted for the teaser as well. I was just looking at Tua's performance against all the coverages he's going to see from Spags. He's like our third highest graded quarterback over the last 2 years. Against press, against a lot of like two-man, cover 2, cover 0, cover 1, like all that he tends to carve up. I'm assuming he just gets the ball out quickly when the guys are not looking. Their backs are to the quarterback. I could be talked into it, but at the same time, I just said I feel like it's an overcorrection, so I'm just going to stay away.
Kind of like the under, to be honest. So yeah. The Dolphins' offense in the 2 games where they've been playing a real team on the road, it has not been pretty, right? They had 1 offensive touchdown against the Eagles. I want to say they had, was it 2? Maybe they had 3, squeaked out 3 in Buffalo. I think it was 2. Now, I do think that this will be a much heavier KC crowd than Miami crowd. That my reasoning for that is that KC will have been more likely to travel given how much they like their team, a lot of less kind of, planning ahead for Miami Dolphins fans. And I just don't really think there at this juncture are that many like legacy Dolphins fans in Europe and particularly in Germany. So I do think this will be a rather heavy KC crowd. And, KC is a good team. So I don't know. I'm like not sold on the Dolphins offense being that potent in situations like this. I kind of think the under is interesting.
I think it's very interesting. The Chiefs have a good defense, and the Dolphins, I think now with Jalen Phillips, they should get back. I think Xavier Howard and Javon Holland next week as well. The under is enticing. Do you think it matters at all? The Chiefs are flying 2 extra time zones as opposed to Miami. Do you think that matters? It's enough time. It doesn't matter, or?
I think it matters more what day they go out there.
Yeah, fair.
Like, as long as I'm assuming they're going to try and get out there tomorrow or Tuesday or something like that. I think the traveling late is where that really screws you with the time zones because it's just harder to acclimate. So as long as they travel early, I'd say no. As someone that has gone West Coast to Europe before.
Yeah.
Vet in the space. All right. No bets so far. We move to Minnesota and Atlanta. I'm guessing Heineke, Ritter. What do we think?
No, he said this is Desmond's team after the game.
Oh,
so, yep.
Good.
Yep.
Desmond and Bijan will lead us. Okay. Brad, would you make this?
I went Atlanta -4, obviously assuming we know Kirk Cousins is not playing. But, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I went Atlanta -3.5.
I went Atlanta by 4, and it is Atlanta by 4. Arjun, you intrigued to bet this?
Look, man, as much as I'd love to fade Desmond Ritter, I do not know who the Vikings starting quarterback is, so I cannot do that anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I don't know how quickly they could get someone in there. I think if Brett Rippon is playing in this game without Justin Jefferson on the road, like, I know we don't like Desmond Ritter, but it's going to be a tough spot for them. I think we may be undervaluing how good Kirk Cousins has been just because of how long the narrative has been that Kirk Cousins is kind of an average guy. Anyways.
I think you were mixing up your quarterbacks there. Brett Rippon's with the Rams, who also might be playing next week. I would actually feel great about the Vikings if Brett Rippon was.
So actually it'd be worse. It would be Jaron.
Jaron Hall. Nick Mullins is on IR. I see the comment. So Nick Mullins on IR till week 10, I believe. So he's not available. That's what Florio said at least. So I mean, Jaron Hall is not viable. Like, he's not an NFL quarterback. So I'm almost tempted to take Atlanta here. 4.
It's a great comment. Yeah, they can make a move that quickly. I mean, does Case Keenum like know this offense well enough because he's played in LA before?
I think you're still mixing teams. You're saying Kevin O'Connell? I think no, I got you. Keenum was that time I was wrong. You were right. Keenum was in Minnesota before with the prior regime, but like he does know. I mean, like Houston's wide zone. I don't know. Regardless, I'm just going to take the Falcons because I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, and I do think we'll recognize like no Kirk and no Justin Jefferson. Like we're going to realize how much that matters.
Yeah, did Keenum didn't overlap at all with O'Connell anywhere then, did he?
I guess not. Maybe like Cleveland back in the day, or he went to Cleveland after Minnesota, so I guess not there. No, the connection to O'Connell was Colt McCoy, which Florio brought up. They spent time together with both Washington and Cleveland, I believe. But he was in Arizona and apparently was so bad in preseason that they just like made the rookie. I'm blanking on his name now. Anyway, the rookie from Houston is the backup there because Colt McCoy was that not viable behind Josh Dobbs. So.
May God be with you. I like this bet as well. Yeah, I'm gonna do it as well.
Real quick. Drake London did leave this game. I think he came back, but Grady Jarrett left the game, did not come back. I don't know. There were some injuries there. I'm still gonna roll with it, but yeah.
Seattle and Baltimore, Brad.
Baltimore minus 4.5.
I went Baltimore -5.
I have Baltimore by 4.5 as well.
Ooh.
Let's see. 5.5, 6. FanDuel is at 5.5. Circa's at 6. We'll call it 5.5 here. No respect for Geno and our Seattle Seahawks. Were there any injuries? I feel like Seattle came out of this fairly unscathed.
Not that I recall. I mean, Kenneth Walker got dinged up, but he was fine. DK played and was fine. I don't think so.
Well, I'll start it off. Give me the Seahawks. Getting 5.5. I will take that.
The total here of 43 is interesting to me. I mean, Mike McDonald's awesome, and yes, he made Jared Goff poop his pants in public, but 43, if these quarterbacks play the way they should play, and Baltimore still, they did demolish the one good offense they played, but Seattle defense is not good. I know they had some good stats the last couple of weeks. They lose Chetan Nwosu. Boye Mafe is starting to look like a dude, but I think Baltimore is going to score points fairly comfortably, and I kind of feel like Seattle will too. I'll do it. It's probably a dumb bet. I'll take the over 43.
I don't hate that. Like obviously, Ravens defense is pretty good. This is like a literal cross country travel thing for the Seahawks, which kind of scares me a little bit. Geno had a couple of nice throws, and then he also had, I think he had some throws where he probably wanted back today, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to be buying the Seahawks off a game where they barely eked out a win, or I guess you're buying the over, but that kind of does mean you're still buying into their offense, which I didn't think was like that great today. So I think I'll just lay off this game altogether.
I'm still at this point with the Seahawks. As a favorite, I just don't like the Seahawks. As an underdog of more than 3 points, I feel like they can win against anybody. So I like that. I also think, 43, like I think the reason it's 43, Brad, is that somehow, some way, the Ravens offense still doesn't quite look right. And I think the Seahawks, like in this game, will probably try and run the ball a bunch to protect Geno maybe just a little bit on the road, because I do think he's looked a little shaky. So like I don't know. I feel good about the Seahawks as a more than 3-point underdog. I worry about them certainly as a favorite.
No, it's a good point. It's a lot of points. Like Baltimore is good. I mean, but that is a lot of points for old Eugene.
Didn't write back. Arizona and Cleveland. It apparently will not be Kyler Murray, so this will be Josh Dobbs against mystery quarterback. Like, who knows in Cleveland, and does it really matter?
I did this assuming it was PJ Walker, and I made it a full touchdown. Might be crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't get to a full touchdown, but I went -6.
I split you guys. I went 6.5. It is 7.5.
Oh boy. Are we betting Josh Dobbs against the Cleveland Browns defense?
I'm not doing it. I bet Josh Dobbs today. I can't do it. There are moments with Josh Dobbs where you're like, man, they should cover this game. And then there are moments with Josh Dobbs where you're like, I just don't understand it. I just don't get, how did a guy that looked serviceable a second ago turn into this? It doesn't surprise me that they're not playing Kyler in this game. Because, I wouldn't start him here, but I don't know. It's interesting.
Would you tease this game? Like, do you have faith in Stefanski and the Browns to at least win this game at home? I would maybe tease it here.
It's an interesting thought. I like Stefanski. I know that at the end of the game, throwing on 3rd and 4, all the fans are like at his neck again. But I thought he called a great game. Their screen package was just like killing Seattle the entire afternoon. He got creative with it throughout the entire game as well. Like moving the ball in the intermediate areas. It's just like, so down to 1.5, I guess. The defense is going to, I don't know, but Arizona also just finds a way to score points against, they scored 24 on McDonald today, some of it in garbage time, sure, but scripted touchdown, which they seem to do every single week. I don't know.
I want nothing to do with this game.
Yeah, me too.
Rams and Packers. I am skeptical as to whether Matt Stafford plays here.
I'm with you. He was like a guy that plays through everything, hit his hand full speed on a helmet and looked in legit pain. And if it wasn't that bad, I think he would have returned to the game. I guess the game was out of hand, so maybe not. But anyway, I went, as bad as the Packers are, I still went, and it's Brett Rippon, I still went Packers +1.
I went, where is it? I went pick him for this one.
Jesus. So I don't think Stafford's going to play. So without Stafford, I would make this Green Bay by 5.5. It seems like we're saying Stafford is going to play. So I'll make this a pick 'em. I have no idea what to do. Let's see. It is it up anywhere?
I see at DraftKings, the Packers are -1.5.
Okay. Oh, here it is. I see 2.5 at FanDuel, 2 at Circa. Okay. Feels like a little bit of a hedge. Let's call it 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I don't think Stafford is going to play, but I don't feel confident in it. I guess if push comes to shove, I feel like taking Green Bay here is kind of interesting.
Cannot convince me to bet on Jordan Love at all. So,
yeah.
Tampa Bay, Houston.
I had Texans minus a field goal.
I had Bucks +1.5.
I had the Texans by 2.5. And it is 2.5. Teaser time, baby. It's your guy, Baker.
I'm rolling with my Texans and CJ Stroud. Ugly game today against Carolina. Yes, coming off a bye and all that, but we talked about it. I knew I was going to regret that bet. Like the 0-6 team, the only winless team in the NFL, with your number 1 overall pick playing number 2 overall pick. Like they were going to, and they still barely won the game. They'll bounce back. This is a gigantic coaching mismatch, at least from a decision-making standpoint. And obviously, Bobby Slowick versus – I thought Dave Canales could have been a guy. It's not looking so much like he's a guy as of right now. I'll take the Texans here -2.5.
I'd rather bet on an over/under on how many 1st and 10 halfback dives there are in this game than on the actual outcome of this game, because under Todd Bowles, it's like almost like 20% of their first down plays are halfback dives up the middle for 3 yards or less,
or less. Key
yeah,
word.
or less. And yeah, it's always less for the most part.
Yeah.
I have faith in Baker keeping this within 8 points.
That's fair.
Washington, New England. I still cannot believe Washington did not cover this game. Sam Howell looked awesome. Like awesome. It was exactly what we talked about. I think when we were making our circa picks, like the exact same spot for the Commanders. Sam Howell goes out, gets sacked 100 times. You go, oh my God, this guy is a complete moron. Then you're going, oh, they're going to face the Eagles. The Eagles are going to sack him 200 times because of their defensive line. Comes out, doesn't get sacked 200 times, actually throws dimes up and down the football field. And yet somehow they did not cover 6.5 in this game. Could not believe it. Brad, would you make this?
I went with a pick 'em.
I went pick them as well.
I did not. I went New England by 1.5. The reason I did that was Belichick versus Sam Howell feels like a bit of an opportunity. It is 2.5 across the board. This will be my teaser leg with Tampa.
Yeah, that's a teaser leg for me as well. I mean, I agree. I hear you on Belichick versus Sam Howell. Hear it 100%, but they can't really generate much of a pass rush, and obviously Howell just takes sacks regardless. But I mean, that Patriots offense is just hard to watch. And yeah, I mean, Howell was dealing today. That game was awesome. Like in the first half, both quarterbacks had like 5 total incompletions and like 200 plus yards, 2 touchdowns each. There's just no, if the Commanders score 17 points, like how does a teaser like lose? Like
the thing that would worry me, less the pass rush and more Belichick confusing Howell with coverages.
Yeah.
And like Howell just not having an answer and just holding on to the ball for 5 seconds.
It's fair.
I'm actually gonna bet on the Commanders this game, like straight up, not as a teaser leg. Like I think Howell as a thrower has been better than people give him credit for. I think obviously the sack thing is an issue, but we could see Josh Uche out of New England by Tuesday. Patriots are kind of a more man-heavy team, and Washington has some good receivers that can beat man, just like Jahan Dotson, who shows up very well, and like Matt Harmon's reception perception, Terry McLaurin, obviously one of the better receivers in the league. And so without Uche, I kind of doubt their ability to generate a pass rush, which should give Howell time to actually throw the ball instead of taking sacks. Obviously, on the other side, Washington could be selling Montez Sweat, could be selling Chase Young at the deadline. So that does worry me a little bit. But at the end of the day, this Patriots offense isn't good. And it doesn't really matter if the Commanders can't generate a pass rush, because I don't think Mac Jones is the type of quarterback who can take advantage of a clean pocket like other quarterbacks can. So I like Sam Howell as a better quarterback in this matchup, and we'll be taking him straight up.
I think both of these teams are trading an edge rusher in the next 24 hours.
That makes sense. Chicago and New Orleans. Is this teabag once again?
I believe this is going to be Justin Fields, both because he's healthy and because we just watched teabag on national television. I went Saints -6.
I actually have the same.
Look at us.
I have the Saints by 5.5. What is it here?
It's not up on DraftKings yet.
Here it is. 5.5 on FanDuel. 5.5. Yeah, it looks like it's 5.5. Any thoughts?
So the weird thing is, I think Fields actually against the man coverage, press coverage team, like that's the rare times where he can do well with his legs and just take off. And I'm sure he's the freshest lower body wise he's been in since he joined the NFL. But this Saints, like their offensive line is a problem, but the Bears pass rush does not exist. So I feel like Derek Carr and that offense, who obviously, played pretty darn well today, are going to continue to score. Super loud building, like Fields is a thumb injury, so if he does play, it's probably going to be less than 100%. I got to stop fading my Bears at some point, but I'm going to keep it rolling. Let's go with the Saints here.
Nah, don't stop. I can be convinced to bet the Saints here after Derek Carr and Rashid Shaheed cashed an electric 36-1 same game parlay by our guy Judah Fortgang. So I will be joining you on this because Derek Carr and Pete Carmichael dropped 38 on the road, and they have changed my minds about the outlook on this team.
And you can throw like both safeties out for the Bears tonight. I assume Eddie Jackson maybe doesn't play again. Brisker, I think, will return, although he got hurt like Thursday or Friday. But yeah, so like throwing deep on this defense or picking on your guy Tyreek Stevenson. I mean, Michael Thomas might just have like 18 catches for 75 yards as they just matric down the field. But yeah, I like this one.
Sorry, Arjun, are you going Washington spread or money line?
I'm probably just gonna take the money line. I can put that in the sheet.
What about an alt minus 2.5? Let's get weird.
Ooh.
I'd go 5.5. Just like
Yeah,
Patriots can't move the ball, so
they cannot.
I'm staying away from the Chicago New Orleans game, but I'm interested to see how the Bears look with a fresh Justin Fields in this one. New Orleans still does not look great, and if it wasn't for Rashid Shaheed, I don't know how that game turns out. Indy, Carolina.
I had Panthers plus 2.5.
I had Colts -3.
I have Carolina getting 1.5.
So quick pause. Well, first, quick pause. Brad plays Scrabble confirmed. I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment or what it is. I am a fan of Scrabble, but anyway, second question. Do you guys think going from, and this is a just genuine question, Jeff Saturday to Shane Steichen, is it one of the biggest upgrades of head coach in like
Ever?
the history of the sport? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Very much so.
Anyway, I don't have a play. I needed to pose that question.
FanDuel has it at 2.5. Any takers?
Yeah, I'll take it. Like, if you give me a reason to fade Bryce, or give me a chance to fade Bryce Young at under a field goal, I'm going to do it. I do think the Colts are one of the better coach teams in the NFL. This could be a Frank Reich revenge game, but I think the way you have to beat the Colts is with your receivers. Michael Thomas had a pretty good game. Rashid Shaheed obviously had like 140, 150 yards on 3 catches, and the Panthers just don't have the juice to do that. You have the Colts have allowed, at least they're in like the top 4 in terms of explosive plays allowed on defense this year. Like before this game, it's definitely going to increase with the amount of 50-yard, 20-yard passes that they allowed. Bryce Young does not have the arm strength to really drive the ball down the field like that. It's going to be a lot of dink and dunk, which is what Gus Bradley wants you to do on defense. So I think the Colts defense should have a bounce back game. Buckner against that interior, Chandler Zavala, I don't even remember if he's playing right now, but I think Colts defense should have a nice bounce back game. And then, yeah, their offense has been pretty good for the most part. Like putting up 27 against a pretty tough Saints defense, like that's really good. And at the end of the day, like the Panthers only scored 15 points today. So I think this is the better offense, better defense, and I think they should be able to come away with this win.
Final question. Is Arjun versus undersized, weak-armed Alabama quarterbacks the biggest rivalry in football? You got Tua, you got Bryce, McCorkle maybe in the mix too. Dude, the guy is just
That's a great call. I didn't even think about that. He loves toolsy quarterbacks. I mean, what
he does.
You can't blame him.
He talked me into it too. I'm joining you, Arjun. I'm riding with the Colts.
I won't do it. I'll stick up for the little guy. Giants and Raiders. Who the hell is playing quarterback for the Giants? Is it Thomas Donnie DeVito?
I have no idea because Tyrod's injury looked pretty bad. Daniel Jones' neck, it's never good. There was like a report today that like they've been kind of like not talking about what it is, and it is related to a previous neck injury he had. I have no clue. I also just like talk about a game that like I don't even want it to come on my red zone. I don't even care. Anyway, I went Raiders -3 just because I just threw a field goal on the home team. Like,
I went Raiders -4.5, so that might be a little high, but
I went 4.5 too, man. The DeVito couldn't convert a throw downfield. I don't understand how this is a thing. Let's see here. Obviously, the Raiders play tomorrow night. FanDuel has it at 5.5, actually. I see a 3.5 out there as well.
yeah, DK's 3.5.
Well, you can have either one. Let's call it 3.5.
I also think Darren Waller's probably not going to play in this game either, so no revenge game for him. He had the hamstring. Yeah, he had the hamstring pop up. Yeah, I don't know why I made this a field goal. I'm not betting the Giants before that question gets posed.
Before Darren Waller went out, though, he had 4 gigantic, huge receiving yards.
More than half the team total.
More than
he had 58. Like, bro, like he had 58% of the receiving yards for the team. Oh my God.
When percentages fail you.
Oh my
Darren Waller story. That's absolutely amazing. I'm very tempted to take the Raiders here.
Yeah.
Very, very tempted.
Max Crosby sack prop should be -500. Like,
yeah.
I guess no idea what Daniel Jones is going to do, but
that's my worry. Yeah.
Is Jake Fromm anywhere? Any practice squad anywhere?
I don't know.
Because he played in Dable's system in 21, I think.
Yeah, Buffalo.
But I mean that doesn't make a difference. He doesn't move the spread at all. I guess with the Raiders, Giants are going to play a ton of man. Devontae against Deonte Banks is probably the mismatch of the week. Devontae is 6th in terms of receptions against man coverage and 3rd in terms of targets. So he's going to be getting the ball a lot. Maybe instead of betting the Raiders here, Devontae overs could be a look. But I guess I'd have to see who the quarterback is before placing a bet here.
2 games of the week here. We've got them back to back. Dallas and Philly. This one is in Philly.
A good game. Oh, change. I went Eagles -3. I was afraid to do it, but I did it.
I went Philly -3 as well.
Make it 3. I tried to make it 2.5 and I could not. It is 3 across the board. I'll just say this. The reason, 2.5. So this is saying that Philly is a better team, in my opinion. I would have said home field about 1.5. I think that's about what it is this year. Philly does have a good home field advantage. But a couple of things here. The first is the strength of the Philly offensive line, I think, cannot be discounted here. And, Dallas defense, they can get run on. So, I feel like this is a very similar matchup for the Cowboys as it was with the Niners. And that would worry me greatly here. So, I think you can make a strong case. I will not be betting the Dallas side of this. If anything, I would bet the Philly side of it.
Yeah, I like Philly here. FanDuel's actually they actually have a -2.5, but it's juiced towards Philly, so -118. I think if that's still up by the time we end stream, I'm probably going to bet that. And again, Dallas does well in games where their defensive line dominates. Obviously, they dominated today. That's why even though the Rams were a team that with cutback they were different. This was a game I always felt that Dallas could dominate, which they did. But then that's not going to happen in this game. Obviously, Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the league. AJ Brown has 6 games of 125 plus yards. I think, would you agree that Deron Bland is probably the Cowboys' best corner in this game? Even better than Gilmore at this point. But Bland is a kind of a smaller guy, and you just putting him on AJ Brown, he's probably going to get Moss a catch or 2. So I feel like Eagles offensive line will be able to handle their business. And then on the other side of the ball, I think Dak's been playing some really good ball the past couple weeks. And I am a little surprised that Sean Desai went from locking down Miami's offense to letting Sam Howell put up 31 on him. But Dak took 3 sacks on that first drive. And we know the Eagles defensive line is no joke. Like, I feel like if Tyron Smith is still out, like the Eagles defensive line could win in some matchups. So I think there are some matchup angles I like for the Eagles here. So I think I'll take them at -3. Probably going to push.
I'm joining you there. I like how you're just putting down W's, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to correct that, but I wanted to let you jinx yourself on all that. Yeah, I was like, dude, you're just setting yourself up for failure right there.
W's. Brad, are you joining us?
I'll let you guys ride it so I don't jinx it. I like everything that Arjun just said. But yeah, I'll leave it to you guys. Yeah, Deron Bland is leading the Cowboys in touchdowns in the season with 4, more than anybody else.
The Cowboys are in the Dolphins tier to me. Okay. The Dolphins tier of, hey, we're really, really good as long as the team we're playing isn't really, really good. That's basically where they're at for me. I wouldn't say that I think that the Eagles passing offense looks back, but whether it does or doesn't, like, they continue to put up points, and it could have been more today. They missed a tush push on the goal line, which was kind of crazy. Fumbled it, is turnover. So ended up getting 0 points out of that. But AJ Brown is absolutely unstoppable. And Deron Bland has played really well. I don't think anyone is stopping AJ Brown at this point.
No. We talked, like, the trench thing is huge to me. We talked about a couple other teams is like, if they have the trench match advantage, we like them. I think Dallas is actually the number one, and they often do, but they don't really in this game. So that kind of makes me like them a lot less.
Sunday Night Football. It is Buffalo and Cincinnati. Brad.
I went pick them.
Ooh.
I went pick them as well.
I'm drinking the Joe Burrow is back Kool-Aid, and I have the Bengals by 2.5. It is 2 at Circa, 1.5 at FanDuel. We'll call it 1.5, since that is probably more widely available. Give me the Bengals. Here's the reasoning for this. I know that the Bills are coming off a little bit of a long rest and a long break here. I think this is a really good matchup for the Bengals. I think their receivers set up really well to carve this defense up. No, Matt Milano is a big, I think, issue for them. Their ability to attack with Chase and with Higgins and with Boyd over the middle of the field. The other issue that I have here is I am a little worried about Josh Allen. I think he's a little banged up right now. So as crazy as it sounds, like, the fact that Burrow, I think, is really healthy and that Josh Allen is not, give me the Cincinnati Bengals in this game.
So total here, 47.5 intrigues me. I think you can move the ball against this Bengals defense. They're kind of like rotating some of the safeties. You see Dax Hill, you see Jordan Battle, you see Nick Scott. Cam Taylor-Britt got dinged up today. I don't think he returned in the game, and DJ Turner has been a guy you can pick on. I do agree Allen does not look 100%. Like, down in the red zone, they're not running him, stuff like that. But you do get the extended rest. And I think both teams, like the Bills defense now in their current construction, all the injuries, is not a great unit. A good pass rush, but the Bengals O-line held up very, very well today against San Fran. I'll do it. I'll take the over 47.5 here.
I think I'm going to just lay off this game. Probably just try to enjoy it. 2 good quarterbacks kind of battle it out. I think, Big Lou obviously had a great game plan last year in the playoffs against Josh Allen. So maybe he runs it back. Maybe they change some things up. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to watch that game.
And then we have the Arjun Bowl, the Arjun Menon Bowl. It is the Los Angeles Superchargers and the New York Jets. Can't wait for this one. Monday Night Football. Brad, would you make this?
Jets +2.
Exactly the same.
I have this as a good old-fashioned pick'em. I can already see the Chargers losing this game in Herculean fashion on Monday Night Football. It is written in the stars. What is this here? We have 2.5 across the board. 2.5. I'm short here. I want to do it. I don't know if I can do it. Herbert looked so good today. Granted, against the Bears. Did the Jets come out relatively unscathed in that game, or did they have some injuries?
No, they lost. They lost their starting center, their starting
God.
guard, who are both gonna probably miss time. Carl Lawson's probably gonna get traded. But I think defensively they made it out fine. But yeah, Jets are starting someone called Xavier Newman, who was signed to their practice squad 2 weeks ago. So
is it Laken Tomlinson that got hurt, or Pittman?
Tippmann, he's the one that's been out for a while.
But so a different guard got hurt today?
Schweitzer.
Wes Schweitzer got hurt? Okay, so yeah, they're going to have their third string center and right guard and right tackle.
They're starting Billy Turner at right guard, where he practiced all of camp at left tackle and right tackle. So,
yeah, I was going to tease the Jets, but I think you talked me out of it.
Yeah.
Same. Man. Do really want
I know, yeah, true. I knew you were.
The under intrigues me a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
What is it?
42.5.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, because I do think this Jets defense is going to do a good job against Herbert, and the Jets might not score a point.
Yeah. Chargers are going to be in 3rd and long for a majority of this game. Austin Eckler against the Bears defense averaged 1.9 yards per carry. If you give Bryce Young or Bryce Huff and Jermaine Johnson 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s the entire game, I don't care how good Herbert is, you're just not going to be able to hold up that well. And the Chargers offensive line at times has really struggled against some good defensive lines. So I think the under could be a play, but not too sure.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
Good news is, no matter what happens, Arjun, you're going to win. So congratulations.
Yeah.
You deserve a win-win. That was our show. We will write up our favorite picks. They'll be on pff.com. If you're listening to this on a Monday morning, they're probably already there. And if you're listening to this on a Sunday night, we thank you for hanging out with us and joining us live after Sunday Night Football. We will, of course, be back on Wednesday evening, or actually a little more like mid-afternoon, because Judah is going to be live from Ireland, where he apparently just wins parlays. That's all he does. We had Rashid Shaheed today. Who did we have on Thursday that he nailed?
Thursday game?
Yeah, it was the Thursday game. Gabe Davis, that's right. Yeah. So hopefully he's just sitting there with his pot of gold and will drop some knowledge on us. We'll be back, as I said, Wednesday. And then, of course, Sundays, we're always live. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love you all. Peace.